This is a Fox 4 breaking news report.
And we start this noon with several breaking news stories. Take a look at this right now. Investigators are looking into the cause of this car crash involving two Kansas City police cars. This happened near 77th and Prospect, and that's where we find Fox 4's Sean McDowell live with the latest details. Sean?
Kim, this scene was just cleaned up moments ago. I'm going to step out and let Pat, our photographer extraordinaire, show you what's going on. The scene is relatively clear now. Moments ago, safety workers were here cleaning up the wreckage of two Kansas City police cars who had collided. Sergeant Bill Mahoney with the Kansas City Police Department's traffic division says these two officers were in the neighborhood. They were traveling to work a routine call when one of them turned left in front of the other. That's when the two cars collided. One of them, upon the collision, bounced off the other and went into a tree. Both officers are on their way to the hospital, but Sergeant Mahoney says he doesn't believe either officer has life-threatening injuries.
Yes, but we just kind of keep our fingers crossed and hope that the injuries aren't going to be something that are going to either be career-ending or something that's going to cause them lifelong.
So the unanswered question remains the cause of this accident. When asked about speed and whether or not it played a factor in this, Sergeant Mahoney says he was going to wait to pass judgment until police wrap up their investigation of this scene. Sean McDowell, Fox 4 News, working for you live at 77th and Prospect with breaking news.
Thank you, Sean. The Platte County prosecutor just announced that a Platte County man is now charged in a quadruple homicide. Graydon Denham is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder in connection with a deadly fire that killed his grandparents, his sister, and his nephew. Fox 4's Robert Townsend is live at the Platte County Courthouse with details on this case. Robert?
After 4 months, this case is finally moving forward with the quadruple murder suspect facing a long list of charges. Take a look. Today, Platte County Prosecutor Eric Zahn charging Graydon Denham with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 4 counts of armed criminal action, arson, tampering with physical evidence, and animal abuse. Now, originally, you'll remember Denham was only charged with stealing a car. Back on February 20th, investigators say the 24-year-old Denham stole his grandparents' car. The grandparents, Russell and Shirley Denham, along with Graydon's sister, Heather, and his infant nephew Mason were all found dead at a home in Edgerton, Missouri. Investigators say the 4 bodies were found burned in the front yard of that house. Police searched for Denham for days. The massive manhunt spanned several states and ended in Arizona, where police found Denham wandering. Police also told us at the time they found the family's dog dead. Officers say they located Russell and Shirley Denham's car at an Arizona motel parking lot, and they also say they found clothes outside the car, and Denham's wallet inside some pants. This afternoon during a news conference, the prosecutor no doubt will shed some more light on this case as well as a possible motive for those 4 murders. We're live in Platte County. I'm Robert Townsend, Fox 4 News, working for you.
Robert, thanks. We have another breaking news update. Independence Police tell Fox 4 2 people were killed in a car crash this morning. This happened on 291 highway near Salisbury Road in Independence. We told you about it this morning on the news. Police say the driver was heading south when the car hit a center concrete sign support. The car then overturned and caught fire. Police say 2 teenage boys, the 19-year-old driver as well as a 17-year-old passenger, were both killed in that crash. 2 other teenage boys were taken to the hospital. About 25 people who lost their homes yesterday in an apartment fire can't even go inside to see what's left. Fox 4's John Pepitone is live in Olathe, where investigators say a lightning strike is what started the fire there. John?
Yeah, that's right, Kim. A number of tenants were hoping to salvage some of their belongings this morning, but firefighters and complex workers have been the only people we've seen going inside. The manager of the Avignon apartment home says it's simply not safe for renters to return right now. Now, this fire started around 4:30 yesterday afternoon as a storm rolled through the area. Witnesses say they heard a huge crack of thunder that was too close for comfort, and then they saw smoke coming from the apartment building. The fire destroyed the roof. Bill Knuff had hoped that he could get into his son's second-floor apartment this morning to look for personal items that can't be replaced. His son, Jeff, was too distraught over the loss to speak right now.
He's Taekwondo, black belt, all the belts that led up to black belt, presumably those are gone. College diploma, high school diplomas, all of that stuff is gone. There's some There's some stuff that my father had passed on when he died, given to Jeff, and hopefully those can be recovered.
Price Brothers, the complex operator, says vacant apartments in this complex and others nearby will be offered to those who lost their homes in the fire. Managers aren't saying yet whether the building is going to be torn down. And we have seen firefighters go into the building to retrieve individual items for some of the tenants who lost their homes. Many of the people I spoke with say that they do have renter's insurance that will help them start over again. John Pepitone, Fox 4 News, working for you live in Olathe.
You're looking live right now at downtown Kansas City, and we've got bright blue skies overhead, and it is shaping up to be a lovely start to our week, although it is starting to get a little warm outside as our temperatures climb up to 88 degrees now in downtown Kansas City. We're at 87 KCI, 86 in Smithville, pushing 90 now in Plattsburgh, compared to a much cooler 80 degrees down in Harrisonville. Across the state line, Olathe is at 82, Lawrence pretty toasty at 87 degrees, and with lots of sunshine over the next several hours, I do anticipate low 90s for highs for several cities on both sides of the state line. I do also think that we'll stay pretty dry for the rest of today, and we'll hit 92 degrees eventually, with maybe a couple of degrees more tacked on in the heat index department. It's sticky outside, but not unbearable like we've been dealing as of late. Tonight, pretty mild, upper 60s for lows, and we'll talk about temperature changes coming up.
All right, Carly, thanks. Well, new this noon. This morning, Missouri Governor Jay Nixon announced that he vetoed a gun rights bill passed by state lawmakers. The measure would allow most people to carry a concealed firearm, even if they haven't gone through the training currently required to get a permit. The measure does have support by Republicans in the legislature to overturn that veto, which would then leave the decision up to voters. The United States Supreme Court making some controversial rulings today. More about the court's decisions and how people are reacting when we come back. You're watching Fox 4 News at noon. It's 12:06.
From the station that's working for you, Nick Vassos, Kim Burns, and meteorologist Michelle Bogowitz. You're watching Fox 4 News at noon.
Welcome back. Bribery and abortion are just two of the decisions the Supreme Court is ruling on before they recess for the summer. Fox News correspondent Joel Waldman is in Washington with the latest.
The 8 remaining Supreme Court justices since Justice Antonin Scalia's death back in February, ruling 5-3, striking down a controversial Texas law considered the most important abortion case before the Supreme Court in 2 decades.
When women's rights were under attack, what did we do? Stand up, fight back!
The highly charged case centered around a Texas law requiring doctors at abortion clinics to have patient admitting privileges at a hospital within 30 miles, while also meeting the same standards as a surgical center.
Today, women lost. Today, the Supreme Court put politics over the health and safety of women in our country.
Opponents arguing the law, one of the nation's most strict, would have forced 75% or more of the abortion clinics in Texas to close.
The Supreme Court has sent a clear message to the tactics of politicians who've used underhanded means to shut down abortion clinics.
The High Court also issuing opinions on 2 other high-profile cases. One, a gun rights case centering on the convictions of 2 men charged with domestic violence. The court ruling they cannot buy firearms. The second, an appeal from former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, convicted on federal corruption charges.
I think that the Supreme Court is very troubled by what the prosecutors did here.
Hillary Clinton responding to the abortion ruling, saying it's a victory for women in Texas and across America. In Washington, Joel Waldman, Fox News.
On the other side, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says the ruling was, quote, exceedingly unfortunate, while the governor said it, quote, erodes states' lawmaking authority to safeguard the health and safety of women. The U.S. Supreme Court has unanimously overturned the corruption conviction of former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell. In 2014, McDonnell was convicted of 11 counts by a federal jury. That jury found he violated the law when he and his wife received money and loans from the CEO of Star Scientific. The Supreme Court threw out the conviction after determining the jury was not correctly instructed on the meaning of the term official act. Carrie?
The widow of a fallen police officer fights to keep her husband's killer behind bars. When we come back, we'll show you why that fight is so important.
And we're keeping an eye on temperatures for this afternoon, plus rain potential. We'll have more on your forecast when Fox 4 News at noon continues.
It's an emotional afternoon for the widow of a fallen police officer as she fights to keep her husband's killer behind bars. Darrell L. Lewis has been locked up for nearly 30 years. He's convicted of killing a police officer in the late 80s. Fox 4's Carrie Stoll is live in Kansas City, Kansas with more. Carrie?
And we are standing outside the City Hall where the Parole Prisoner Review Board is considering 18 different cases today. In fact, one of those cases hits really close to home for members of the law enforcement community. A number of uniformed and non-uniformed police officers filled the commission chamber to show support for one of their own this morning. Officer Jeffrey Young died in August 1989 after succumbing to injuries sustained 9 months earlier. Young was hit by the driver of a vehicle trying to elude police at a roadblock. He remained in a coma until his death. The driver of the vehicle, Darrell L. Lewis, was sentenced over 20 years in prison. He was denied parole in 1999. Lewis will have another parole eligibility hearing in July, but first, the first step of the process, which is the review board listening to public comments. The first person to speak today, Officer Young's widow. She talked about her time at the hospital before her husband passed away.
I know that was the loneliest time I have ever felt in my life. While all the doctors kept telling me was that Jeff had such a severe brain injury that there was no hope of him regaining consciousness or breathing fully on his own. Yet he had just been saved by the Code Blue team. That's when I had to learn what brain death really meant.
So again, the parole board is considering the case of Darrell L. Lewis, who is convicted of killing police officer Jeffrey Young in 1989. They say that this entire process could last up to 3 months. Stick with Fox 4 News on air and online for the very latest. Carrie Stoll, Fox 4 News, working for you in KCK.
Carrie, thanks. 2 people presumed dead in the West Virginia flooding have been found alive. Across that state, flooding has killed at least 23 people during the past week. More heavy rain is expected today in West Virginia as residents continue to deal with severe flooding there. Some people are trying to start to pick up and, get things back to normal, but others haven't even had the chance due to just continuous rain. The water has destroyed hundreds of homes and covered everything in a thick layer of mud. For many, though, the nightmare is just beginning.
Devastating.
And I was just heartbroken when I come down yesterday and seen it.
It tore us apart.
This is always somebody else until it's you.
Senator Joe Manchin says the federal government will need to help rebuild damaged roads and bridges there. Federal dollars will also help rebuild some homes, but only if they rebuild outside the floodplain. Stocks opening down once again following Britain's decision to depart the European Union. American British officials both seeking to calm unease in the wake of the referendum's financial fallout. Prime Minister David Cameron is holding an emergency cabinet meeting as the country's financial chief makes his first public appearance since the referendum. Last week's surprise vote in favor of the so-called Brexit sent global markets into a tailspin, sinking the value of the British pound as well. It's expected to take some 2 years for Britain to exit the European Union, currently made up of 28 countries. 5 people are dead following an Amtrak crash. 3 of those killed were children. The victims were heading to church on Sunday when the crash happened in southern Colorado. State police say the minivan didn't yield to the oncoming train. Family members have identified the victims as Steve Miller, his wife Christina, and their 3 young daughters. A 4-year-old daughter survived and is being treated at a hospital. Police say everyone inside the van was wearing a seatbelt. And the death toll from a wildfire in central California could rise. The flames have already killed at least 2 people. They were apparently overcome by smoke as they were trying to run from their homes. Cadaver dogs have been brought in to search for more victims. The fire is now burning on 68 square miles. California's governor has declared a state of emergency.
We are certainly not that dry, but we are getting dry, and we'll let you know if we can expect any rain this week. We had a lot of rain and severe weather across parts of Johnson County yesterday afternoon and evening. And after all that rain in some spots, we saw some very thick fog this morning. Dave Diamond sent this picture in from Blue Springs Lake Marina around 7:30 in the morning with less than 100 yards visibility. And we saw this common scene on both sides of the state line early this morning. Thankfully, all of the fog has lifted, and this is what we're left with now. Blue skies overhead, a pretty quiet afternoon ahead of us, in fact. And we're expecting a lot of sunshine and another warm day today with temperatures climbing in some spots near 80 already this afternoon. Or excuse me, near 90 already this afternoon. We're well into the 80s, 87 in fact, KCI and Lawrence. Close to 90 down in Melbourne, 82 Olathe along with Warrensburg, 84 for Sedalia, Clinton, and Lee's Summit along with Bethany, and we're at 86 degrees right now up towards Excelsior Springs. You factor in the humidity and we're starting to see those heat index values coming in the 90-degree range for KCI, Sedalia, Clinton. Lawrence feels like 93 right now, so yeah, it's going to be another hot one this afternoon, and I do anticipate the air temperature to end up reaching the low 90s. The heat index probably mid-90s at the highest. And then just know that some relief is coming within 24 hours, guys. We're getting close. We're getting there, and it is going to be a welcome change. Not a lot going on to our north. Few thunderstorms still lingering across southern Missouri, but the really overall trend here is for a dry rest of this evening. Then I think we'll have this little weak boundary push through tonight into tomorrow morning, maybe spark off a few showers here and there later on tonight. But most of us will have to wait until tomorrow or later in the week before we see some rain in our neighborhood. So this is 7 p.m. Notice there might be a few spotty showers on either side of the state line. We do have a Royals game this evening. We'll have that forecast in a minute. But I think really the next best chance for some rain will happen tomorrow morning around 6, 7 o'clock, where Microcast shows a line of maybe lighter showers, maybe some moderate rain for some of you early tomorrow morning, but it quickly blows through. We're talking 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Most of it is away from Kansas City and pushing off to the south and east. And by the afternoon into tomorrow evening, we are clear. And with this rain blowing in, some cooler air arrives as well. So if you're heading out to the Royals game tonight, it's going to be hot. 90 degrees for first pitch, dropping to 82 by the 9th inning. But tomorrow night's game will be a whole lot nicer because highs tomorrow will only be in the 80s, and we'll stay actually with 80s for highs all the way through the rest of the week. So a nice little welcome change heading our way. I am so excited to not have everything just frying outside from the heat and the sun. So not only is it going to cool down, but we have rain heading our way as well, and I'm going to talk a little more about that rain for the lighter parts of the week coming up.
All right, thank you, Carly. Well, books and beer, some new changes are coming to some Barnes & Nobles. We'll explain what they are. You're watching Fox 4 News at noon. It's 12:22. Books and beer, that's what Barnes & Noble is combining to bring in more customers. The company's adding alcohol to the book business. Barnes & Noble's going to try serving beer and wine in 4 new stores. It doesn't stop there. An executive chef has also been hired to create full breakfast, lunch, and dinner menus as well. Customers will be served by waiters. The new stores will feature a larger cafe area to accommodate all the new stuff. The first store opens in New York this fall. The 3 others will open across the U.S. by Christmas. It's been a year since the Supreme Court ruled in favor of same-sex marriage. A new study shows since then, same-sex couples have spent more than $1 billion on weddings. That same study revealed the average same-sex couple spends $11,000 on a wedding versus $15,000 for couples of the opposite sex. A Gallup survey estimates there have been 123,000 same-sex marriages in the U.S. Fox 4 is working for you with some new job listings. Ransom Memorial Hospital in Ottawa is looking for a radiologist. For more job openings, log onto our website at fox4kc.com. Just click the on-air link.
After a lightning strike sparks a fire which forces them from their homes, some apartment dwellers in Olathe are hoping to salvage their belongings. I'm John Pepitone. We'll have that story next.